Hello everyone and welcome to The Retreat. It is me, your host, Danielle Amaris Owens. For those who are just now tuning in for the first time, we took a little bit of a break here in New York City between COVID-19 and quarantine, but now we're back and better than ever. I have a topic today that I want to discuss that is very near and dear to me. I know I joke and laugh a lot. However, this is no laughing matter. But I do want to bring light and encouragement while discussing this very, 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 very near and dear topic to me. And today I want to talk about suicide and mental health. And the reason why I've decided to kind of delve in on this, and this is something, again, it's near and dear to me because it's my experience. And I hesitated with even bringing this to the show because it's so personal. However, I was just recently reminded of a time that I shared my story and how much of an impact that it had. If we were filming last month for Suicide Awareness Month, I definitely would have shared it then. You know, time passes, you feel like your window's gone. And then again, the level of intimacy behind this topic is something that I've always kind of a little bit battled with. But if I can share my story in hopes to help someone else, that's the greatest good I can provide. So let's just delve right in. I'll just share my story and go from there. So I realized maybe in my mid-20s that something was happening to me almost as a cycle. I kept noticing that certain times of the year, I would just be down and out, like can't focus. It didn't matter what I had going on. Nothing was good enough. I wasn't good enough. No matter what plans I had, fear would grip me. I felt like I had to stop everything that I was doing. I had to quit. I had to, end relationships. It was, I can't explain it to you. And it always happened right before my birthday, which is in November, all through the holiday season. The happiest time for most people, the darkest time for me. So I want to say that in 2017 is when I identified these cycles, and I was like, okay, something's wrong here. This isn't right. I had built a conference. I was working, making great money. I had my independence. I had started making, somewhat of a name for myself just in ministry. I'm ministering, I'm preaching the gospel. I'm very active in my church, very well known for being active in my church community and things like that. So I had grown and kind of matured spiritually. So by the time, it's a fly, sorry. Are you going to edit that out? Can you edit that out? No, you're not? Thanks, I needed that. So I'm maturing spiritually, and things are happening for me that I should be happy about. So now when the cycle comes around my birthday, I'm able to identify and fight a little bit harder. However, in 2018, that fight almost took me out of here. Without going into every itty-bitty detail, I'll say this. I was in a relationship. I had tons of friends, and that was new for me because I'm not a big friend person. I am everyone's associate, but friendships, they're hard to come by for me because I'm kind of like, I don't know, I just like my family. And then I've always, since I was a kid, I've had this fear of people getting too close, like keep everybody at arm's bay. And I had become part of this circle of friends, and I had this relationship, and ministry was taking off, and then don't know what happened. I started getting very irritable. Things just wasn't working. And that was, again, during the holiday season. So end of 2018 into 2019, it just got rough. It got rough. My mind was all over the place. Like, I remember, here we go. I remember on my 29th birthday, my birthday that year, I remember having a bunch of people around me. We kind of had like this big adult sleepover. Everybody came over to my friend's house, and I remember it was maybe 12 of us. And while everybody's laughing, having a good time, I had to step away because tears were starting to come out of my eyes, and I did not know why. Here we are, a group of people celebrating me, and I have anxiety. Like this is just not supposed to happen. I'm just not supposed to have this. And I remember going into a separate bedroom where no one was with my iPad on my lap, and I wrote my first suicide note. Can't tell you why I wrote it. And I'll never forget because the note started off with, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I can't function. I'm sorry I can't be happy. I'm sorry that I'm this burden." Don't know why. It wasn't until I finished the letter, and I remember telling my parents, like, life would just be better without me. I'm going to miss you all. Like, and I'm telling you, it wasn't until I got to the end of the letter and, wrote it in my notes on the iPad. I got to the end of it, and I was, like, reading it, and I was like, what the heck? And it broke me again. I just started crying. I'm like, this is not normal behavior. Like, so long story short, I just deleted it. Was like, can't do that. Now let's move a little bit forward. Again, without going into details, relationship ended, friendships fell apart. But more so than that, the torment of feeling worthless it like snowballed. It snowballed. And it snowballed so much until it felt like I couldn't breathe. And I'll never forget, on January 3rd, 2019, I checked myself into a hotel room. And in that hotel room, now let me pause for a second. At this point, I have a successful conference. I have people who love me. Like, I know it's not a game. I have people that care about me. I have people that believe in me and believe in the future that I can't even see. I had people who constantly wanted to be around me and wanted to talk to me. I had people that I was pouring into, that I was giving wise counsel to. I had a group of young ladies around me that I was mentoring. And while I'm doing all of this, there's a piece of me that outside of doing for everyone else, when it's just me, I'm shattered. I'm nothing. At least that's the torment that was going on in my mind. I could only function being at service to others. But when it came to doing anything for myself or realizing that in being a service to others, I myself am building my soul, my spirit as an individual. But I didn't have that. I had everybody wants you for what they want, but no one's going to miss you when you're not here. And then I remember checking into a hotel on January 3rd with a journal. I've always been a writer. And I intentionally this time wrote about 6 goodbye letters. One to my parents, one to my grandmothers, one to my brothers, I think my best friend. And I think it's just a general, I can't remember all of them. I still have the journal. And I had a couple of different over-the-counter sleeping pills, some alcohol, and I'm getting hot. And for 3 days, I locked myself in that hotel room, turned my phone off, didn't want to speak to anybody. And I remember begging God, like, if you have any purpose for me to live, then you stop this. Because everything in me doesn't want to wake up tomorrow. And man, I got this. I'm healed. I'm set free, y'all. But that time was just, it was tough. It was tough. I can't explain to anyone why I felt the way that I felt. I can't pinpoint it, say that it was any one thing that happened to me that brought me to this place. All I know is that one day it was too much for me to handle. What I had been functioning through for years had finally became more than anything that I can handle. And for 3 days, popping pills, and they would knock me out. And every time I would wake up, I'd be like, okay, chug them in my hand, throw some more back. And part of me was scared, I have to say. Part of me was afraid that the end would be the end. But then there was a part of me that was like, why do I keep waking up? I'm taking lethal amounts of these pills and I can't even do this right. And that was like my attitude in between like the mood swings of like, oh, I'm scared. Maybe I'm having second thoughts. And then there was the other part of me that was angry with myself because that wasn't enough. That handful wasn't enough. That alcohol wasn't enough. Finally, after the third day, I was like, can't do it. I ended up checking out at a hotel, and I will never forget the feeling in my legs and in my arms they felt like noodles. Like I felt like I had no strength. They were just numb, like just dead limbs is what they felt like. I remember going back home, getting in the bed, and not leaving. And my mom, one Sunday morning, my mom knew that I was just dragging for a couple days now. At this point, it's probably like a week, but I think my mom had really taken the couple days before this Sunday where she was like, okay, something is really, really wrong. I remember that next Sunday morning, she came in my room, everybody left, and because my father's a pastor, so everybody's going to church. And I remember my mother coming into my bedroom, and she's like, she said, you have two choices. You're either going to go to church, or I'm going to take you down the street to St. Vincent's Hospital, which is a mental institution. And she was like, which one is it? My mom, anybody know my mom? She's a tough cookie. She's like, which one is it? And I'm like, I don't know. Wrong answer. And I remember her grabbing me by my ankle, pulling me out of bed, and dragging me. And I remember having the worst anxiety because at this point, from my birthday up until this is January now. My birthday's in November. During that time, I was so consumed by this depression. I'm already a small girl. My weight was just slowly leaving me. So by the time my mom was like, no, you're coming to church, I hadn't been to church in a couple of weeks. And I had this big winter coat on, and I'm like, I'm not taking it off. I walk into church, the ushers are grabbing my coat. I'm like, no! You can see the bones across my chest. You can see, I've always had these bones. These were always prominent. But literally, you can see the bones of my skeleton. And they took this jacket off of me, and I remember just feeling like, I hate everybody. Why are they doing this to me? I felt humiliated, and nobody was paying me any attention, just in my head. And I remember that Sunday passing, and I remember I confessed to my father that day. I'm like, Dad, I did something really bad last week. And he's like, what did you do? And immediately he went into super dad mode. He began to pray. He began to talk to me. And I still was embarrassed, and I had this humiliation attached to it. Let's go to a week later. I'm in the bed every day. At this time, I am a big-time manager at a residential building. And I have, staff that reports to me, and they're working for me. And then I report to someone else off-site. And I remember telling them, I'm sick. And for whatever reason, the job just kept functioning without me being there. I just approved people's payroll, and that was it. I made sure that someone was always there. But I remember getting out of the house this time. I have a friend who lives in Long Island, and drove out to Long Island. And the whole time I'm driving, I'm like, what am I doing? It's just crazy anxiety. I can't explain it. I've always had like a little bit of anxiousness, which I think a little bit might be healthy. But what I was experiencing this day, just leaving the house after being in the house for almost 3 weeks now, not leaving the house at all. I I'm driving on the highway and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing this. The whole time I'm like, I can't believe I'm on the road. I can't believe I'm on the road. I'm going to my friend's house. I decided to, well, she actually convinced me to stay the night. And the next morning she's like, I think you should come with me to church. I don't want to go to church. I didn't have any clothes. I was just too afraid. Truth be told, she begged me to stay, but I really stayed because it's nighttime now and I'm afraid everything scares me. Everything is tormenting me. And I ended up going with her to church the next day. She pulled out some clothes, was like, you can wear this, you can wear this. I tell you all, no lie. I get to service. Worship is high. It's phenomenal. It's great. And for some reason, this church had huge television screens. They were live streaming. And I mean the full production, okay? Full production. And there are screens to my left, and I mean huge screens. Like, these are not home entertainment screens. These are the real deal. Like, you're in a movie theater almost. And these screens are on both sides of me, and the camera person, there's a camera person next by me that's getting, shots of the congregation and people in the congregation. Every time that camera catches me and every time I see a glimpse of me on the screen, I die a little bit more inside because my face is so, can I just push for a second? I put on weight since then, and this is the most weight I've ever had, and I feel so good about it. I feel like such a woman. All right, play. All right, so listen. I had lost so much weight until my face was sunken in. So literally, every time the cameras catch me and I see a glimpse of myself on the screen, all I see in my head is Tales from the Crypt. That's what I look like. My hair looked like that. My face, you can see my skull. It was, I was going through it. I was really, really going through it. I had no appetite. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get out of bed every day. Even while I was home, the remainder of the sleeping pills that I had, that's at home. I'm just taking them because I don't want to be awake. And at that church service, I tell my friend, I'm like, hey, I need to use the bathroom because all of a sudden I'm starting to get very light, feeling how I was feeling when I was taking the sleeping pills. And I hadn't been taking them. And I'm feeling like my limbs going, like I just don't feel like myself. And I'm like, where's the bathroom? She points to this stairway that leads, these steep stairs that lead pretty much to the basement. And she's like, they're down there. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm not going to make it down those stairs. I'm feeling my body feels like it's leaving me. And she's like, you want me to go with you? And I'm like, yeah. We walk through the pew that we're in. We start heading towards the stair. And I remember grabbing her. And that's all I remember. After that, when I woke up, they were like, the ambulance is outside. I blacked out. I remember being out of it, not being able to respond, but I remember I was conscious of the conversations around me. I remember feeling someone smacking me across the face. I remember hearing people say, I can't feel a pulse. She's turning white. Look, her lips are blue. Please, Danielle, please, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I could feel my body moving, jerking from people pulling and hitting me, trying to get me. I can't feel a pulse. We're losing her. We're losing her. I get rushed to the emergency room. And, I get rushed to the emergency room, get all these tests run, and they can't find anything wrong with me. Mind you, I'm visibly underweight. Visibly. My blood work, my urine tests, my EKG, everything that they did, they're like, oh, we're just going to send you home. I knew at that point, because at least if they found something medically wrong with me, a couple things would make sense. They could not find anything wrong. Even looking at my appearance, I am visibly in trauma. And they were like, no, you can go home. Like I said, it was at that moment that I knew what was happening to me was not natural. What I had just experienced was not natural. Anybody with two natural seeing eyes can see that something is before I open my mouth, you can see that something is, even if you don't know me, you can see that something is very wrong with me. Physically, my physical appearance was out of whack. And I knew at that point that God would not let me go. So now my goal is to figure out why. The next several weeks would prove that God's hand truly was on my life. Y'all, I'll share the nitty-gritty details of what happened in those following weeks. But as you can see, I'm here. I'm alive, I'm well, I'm breathing, I'm plump. But I wanted to bring that story to the forefront for two specific reasons. One, to understand that mental health and suicide, depression, anxiety can also be very much high functioning. Like I said, I had a great job. On the outside, I looked like I had it all together. I had papers that proved that I was a decent young woman who had a lot going for her. I didn't complain. I didn't lead off on anything being wrong with me. I didn't write subliminals about wanting to end my life or needing attention in any way or any type of validation. I didn't have that. I worked, I did what I had to do. I put on a face when I was in front of people. And when I got home alone and by myself, I was being tormented day and night. So for people who think that suicide is something that you can just catch, you can't. You can't always just determine that a person is okay. I don't know a better example outside of me. And secondly, because I understand now we live in a culture and a society, especially here in the U.S., and this is something that I speak about often. Everyone knows my faith is my life. And I stand by this. There was no doctor, no medicine that got me through that. I literally knocked on death's door. No one can take credit for the resurrection that happened in my life. Nobody. But I know that we live in a culture and a society where you want to make sense naturally of what's going on around you. I know that therapy is very big, and I love the idea of it. I love therapy. Eventually, I'm going to go just so that I can have someone to talk to. And I know that the stigma has been removed from therapy and certain medications also. However, I'm here to tell my viewers, those who are listening, that prayer still works. And it works by itself. Faith without works is dead, but prayer being the root and the vehicle that drives you to great works according to His will is what is going to get us through. Or at least that's what got me through. You want to go to therapy? Go to therapy. You want to take medication? That's on you. But I am a witness that prayer and seeking God and staying, the work came in staying in His presence and staying in a posture of just really being 100% dependent on the uncreated creator, on God Himself. And I will not let anything or anyone take that from Him. The glory of God on my life is His alone. I can't even take credit. I can't say, well, I developed these 10 steps on how to get. The Lord helped me through. He decided that against my own will, when I didn't want to live, that His will was greater and it was going to prevail over my life. And that meant that my time was not yet. I'm so passionate about speaking against mental health because I don't ever want to replace the number one solution with little small resources. Again, this is not to downplay that therapy works for a lot of people. I've heard so many testimonies about how speaking to a professional and a licensed therapist has gotten them through some of the traumas of their past and things like that. Let me tell you something. The Lord was my therapist, because when he took me through the cycle of bringing me to total deliverance and really healing my mind, my body, and my soul, it was him who took me back into my past and began to show me these violations in my life that had started to open doors that brought me to the place where I felt like I needed to kill myself. The secrets that I held, the pain, the things that were done to me, the things that were said about me, the violations. And I use the word violation because a lot of times you can talk to people, especially Christians, and they're looking for the sin in your life to justify the torment. And in my case, I use the word violations because there were things that were done to me as a child, things that had happened, violations that took place in my childhood that I had literally put into a place of forgetfulness in my own mind where I just acted like it didn't happen. Those habits actually followed me into an adult where I get detached very easily. I've been trained in this since I was a kid, because when someone said something to me, when someone touched me, when someone violated, I just figured out how to, it never happened, and erase it from my brain. So as an adult, some of my issues, and again, this is why I say God was my therapist, because in dealing with and mapping my life and finding these places of violation, not only did he heal me from the place of suicide, but then he healed my heart from relationships, from learning to trust people, from learning how to get by. And to me, again, this is my story. This is my testimony. A doctor couldn't do it. Medication could not do it. Shoot, medication couldn't even take me out of here if it wanted to, because the Lord's hand will forever be upon my life. And I don't ever want people to think that he's not enough. He is enough. He is enough. He is enough, and he will provide the instructions, the wisdom. He will begin to speak to you. Again, the work, because faith without works is dead. The work for me came in maintaining a posture for him to deal with me. See, the problem today is that people don't know how to wait. People don't know how to go through long suffering. People don't know how to depend on God, because everything in our culture today is quick, fast, and in a hurry. So if God doesn't deliver me now, he's not going to. So let me move on to something else. It's not my story. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have anywhere to turn. And so what happened in my life, and this is why this topic means so much to me, because I'm telling you, I was 1 foot in the grave. And because of my experience and because what God has done in my life, I'm here to tell someone that suicide is not your end. And again, to look for the little pieces and to just be compassionate to people. Sometimes a person just needs to know that you somewhat are listening, so that way they can open up to you and tell you what they're going through. You do not have to suffer in silence. There's always, if there's not someone physically there, God the Father is. And he will see you through. I am a testimony. I hold that near and dear to me. And I want to reach out to you all. I want to hear your comments. I want to talk back and figure out what you all have going on in your plate. This is a crazy time that we're living in. It's an uncertain time that we're living in. It's a hurtful time that we're living in. And I don't want any of us to miss someone else's downfall when we can pick them up out of the pit and lead them to the one who will raise them up again. All right, y'all. Yeah, I know how we do. Leave the comments. And thank you for tuning in.